Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our second episode of the Black Marketing Experience, Driving Financial Responsibility. My name is Jessica Jose, and I am the founder of the Black Marketing Experience. So last episode, we received a really great feedback from our audience, and we're hoping to keep up that same momentum with this week's episode. We'll be focusing on something many small businesses struggle with, and that's financial planning and access to those resources. And we have two very esteemed speakers who will be hosting a fiscal fireside chat. First, let me introduce Rodney Bolden. Now, Rodney is the Vice President, Field Engagement Specialist at Morgan Stanley. In this role, he works with corporate directors and financial advisors to introduce Morgan Stanley's financial wellness offerings to their institutional clients. Now, prior to joining Morgan Stanley, he was the regional team leader for Keys Bank's financial wellness program. As the regional team leader, he also managed a team of relationship managers that were responsible for selling Keys workplace financial wellness solutions to C-suite executives at Fortune 500 companies. With over 30 years in the industry, Rodney has also served as a financial education consultant for municipal entities like the New York City Housing Authority, the New York City Office of Financial Empowerment, and a host of other companies. Now, let me introduce you to Kenneth Ebie. Kenneth is the inaugural Executive Director and Chief Development Officer of Black Entrepreneurs NYC, a first of its kind municipal initiative in an American city to help address the racial gap by empowering Black entrepreneurs. In this role, he's responsible for establishing public-private partnerships and developing programs to increase the number of Black-owned businesses in New York City specifically. Ebie's role also seeks to provide information and resources to Black businesses in order to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 as they recover from the pandemic. An entrepreneur himself, Ebie is also the founder of principal of Ebie Strategies LLC, a boutique social impact and public affairs firm that advises corporate, nonprofit, and individual clients on human capital. Let's welcome both Rodney and Kenneth to the stage.
Hi, Kenny.
How are you?
Very well. How are you? And thanks, Jessica, for that wonderful introduction. You never feel old until you hear you've been in the business for over 30 years.
That was I will echo the wonderful, flattering nature of the introductions, and I hope that we can live up to the billing, Rodney. What do you think?
Absolutely. Well, going to give it our best shot.
That's right. Well, first of all, Rodney, it's great to be in conversation with you, my friend. It's always good to talk with people who have the amount of experience that you have on an issue so important to our community and to our personal and professional well-being, financial wealth, financial wellness, if you will. And so I just want to say it's great to see you again, and I'm really excited to be in this conversation with you.
Absolutely. Same here, Ken.
So why don't we just get right to it? I know that, just like we've discussed before, we love to give opportunities for people who attend these sessions to ask questions. So there's some really important information that I would love to glean from you, and obviously you have some questions for me. But I definitely know we're in agreement that we want to have some time for questions afterwards. So why don't we just dive right in?
Sure.
I wanted to ask you, from your experience, Rodney, what are the financial challenges that are facing today's Black entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, to answer it, I want to take a step back because Black entrepreneurs don't exist in a vacuum. They're part of the larger Black community. So let's talk about one of the biggest challenges facing the Black community today, and that's the racial wealth gap. So what is exactly the racial wealth gap today? Well, last year, the Federal Reserve reported that Black families have less than 13% of the wealth of white families. And when you look at the stock market, in 2020, the stock market, it had a banner year. But Black families were largely left out of those gains, an opportunity to build wealth because they are far less likely to own equities. 62% of white families own equities versus only 34% of Black families. And another big impact on the continuing effects of the racial economic disparity is the transfer of generational wealth. In that same Federal Reserve survey, 47% of whites said that they have either received or expect to receive an inheritance versus only 16% of Black families. So, that gives you a sense of the environment that many Black businesses are operating in, coming from that family structure. But then let's talk specifically about the challenges facing Black entrepreneurs. And the biggest challenge consistently has been the lack of access to capital to start and grow their business. So let me give you some stats around that. The Census Bureau, they do an annual survey of entrepreneurs. And, what they found is that when starting their businesses, Black entrepreneurs rely more on personal and family savings and personal credit cards as a source of startup capital than any other group, than any of their colleagues. Another thing that they found is that Black entrepreneurs rely less on getting a loan, a business loan from a bank or a financial institution as a startup, as a form of startup capital. And what's interesting is that even when their businesses are up and running, when they're looking to grow their business, 59% of Black entrepreneurs said that they didn't even seek additional financing from a financial institution, despite needing it to grow. And Ken, the reason for that, they said, is because they didn't think that they were going to be approved. So even though they needed, they didn't think they were going to be approved. And access, not having access to capital helps your profitability in the long run. Black entrepreneurs are almost 3 times as likely as their white counterparts to have profitability hurt by a lack of access to capital, and more than twice as likely to have profits negatively impacted by the cost of capital. Because remember, when you're borrowing on a credit card, it's a lot higher rate than borrowing in a business loan. So that's additional dollars coming out of your pocket. Now, Ken, here's the thing. Every data point that I just mentioned is pre-COVID. Consider what happened with the pandemic in the past year. As we know, it had a disproportionate impact on the Black community and on Black businesses. As a matter of fact, the National Bureau of Economic Research found that we lost over 400,000 Black businesses during the pandemic. That was a 41% drop from the previous level. So 41% of Black businesses gone due to the pandemic. So the challenge is, to sum it up, and I know I was a long-winded answer there, but the challenges really have been, building that generational wealth that's going to be your foundation for your business, as well as having access and gaining access to capital to start and grow your business.
That's so important, and everything you said there, I think, needs to stick in and be ingrained in the heads of all of us who are trying to pursue our entrepreneurial dreams. I want to ask you, a practical question for people who are interested in just appreciating, kind of on a granular level and a practical level, what can I do if I'm having challenges to overcome them? So what steps would you advise an individual who's facing these challenges, around access to capital and around being able to manage their finances? What steps would you suggest they take in order to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm glad you asked it that way, because the challenges can be overcome. They can absolutely be overcome, but it does take some work. So 5 key steps to put yourself in a better position to achieve your financial goals as a Black entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur. Step one, educate yourself about credit. By gaining an understanding of how credit works in general and also specifically business credit, you can begin to get prepared to submit that loan application. You're also going to be better able to more accurately assess your current situation and gauge your chances of getting financing for your business. Let me give you a real life example. So years ago in my career, I was a branch manager for a major financial institution in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. So if you're familiar with East Flatbush, Brooklyn, Caribbean American community, there's churches and a lot of small businesses. That's what surrounded my branch. And I would hear from small businesses saying, hey, we struggle to get our businesses up and running, but now that they're running, they're thriving. We need money to grow, but no banks will lend to us. And I don't understand because I have a 630 credit score. And because everyone around them had credit scores in the 500s, from their perspective, a 630 was a good credit score, but it's not. It's fair credit score. And certainly a lot of times won't get you that business loan. So it was about having that education around, what is good credit, what qualifies you for a business loan, and how you can work towards that. So that's step one, educate yourself about credit. Step two, do a financial assessment. The past year has been so financially challenging for all of us. Now's a great time to really take stock of your total financial picture. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? What amount of cash do you have on hand? You can't determine where you're going unless you know where you are. So take a realistic look at your total financial picture. Do a financial assessment, step two. Step three, build your team. You don't have to go at this alone. There are resources, there are people out there that can help you. So in building your team, your team can help you handle a lot of the complex financial issues that come up and legal issues that come up. So teaming with an accountant, an attorney who's a tax trust estate attorney, and or a financial advisor can really be a solid way to understand your options and potentially give yourself that added advantage as an entrepreneur. Step four, document your plan. Once you have all your information together, you know where you are in your financial life today. You've had your team give their advice and guidance. Next step is to create that plan of action. What is it that you want to achieve? Once you determine your goal, document it in writing. What it is you want to achieve and what actions you will need to take to get there. And finally, step five, monitor and track progress. I can't tell you how often I've seen over the years people who make a plan of action, but the plan of action is so outdated for where they are and who they are today. Monitor and track progress. Once you've made that plan, check in with it regularly. Is it still relevant to what you want to do? Is it still relevant to your end goal? Make adjustments. A plan is a living, breathing instrument. It should flow just like your life flows. So those are the 5 steps.
That's tremendously helpful. I always find it helpful, Rodney, as I think about what do I need to do. We all hear all these numbers that are being thrown out about the impact of financial access to capital or the lack thereof on our community. But what do I need to do is the question I always ask. What can I do? So it's really helpful to have those practical tips there. You mentioned this a little bit. You touched on it, and we're all operating in this environment, in this context of what are we doing, and what has happened to the Black community, to business owners writ large, to the economy writ large, but to Black business owners and entrepreneurs as a result of this health crisis, the COVID pandemic. And so it's really, you touched on this a bit, but I can't overstate the fact that this pandemic had a disproportionate financial impact on our community. So for people who've had their finances kind of battered about, that have taken a hit due to the pandemic, what are some things that they can do to get back on track?
You're absolutely right, Ken. I mean, J.D. Power last September found that 65% of Americans said that their household had lost income during the pandemic. So if they were not laid off or furloughed, they had a spouse that was laid off or furloughed. So many people right now, as we're coming out and starting to gather again and returning to the workplace and returning and restarting our businesses and trying to achieve our goals, it's about rebuilding. And many of the principles that I discussed as far as those 5 steps with your business can also be applied, to rebuilding. So first, assess where you are, decide where you want to be, and make a plan to get there. Now, the first place you're going to start is by creating and looking at your current budget. Where's your money going? Where is it coming from? When you think about a budget, it really is the foundation of your financial house. And just like, a brick and mortar house, if the foundation isn't strong, what's going to happen? House collapse. So that's why the road to recovery really starts with getting your foundation, your budget in order. And, the thing is, many of us only have a rough idea of how much we have coming in and how much we can reasonably spend. How often have you heard somebody say, I know I got money coming in, but I just don't know where it goes. So this is why and how a more formal budget can really help. So the first thing, determine all income coming into your house. So that's not just salaries. That's not just, what you're earning, from your business profits. It's also, anything else you have coming in, any unexpected windfalls, maybe a tax return or something like that. Because the thing is, the reason why you have to take into account all income coming into the house, because what happens if you don't plan for that income? As my mom used to say, if you plan for nothing, your result will be nothing. So that's the first step. Next step, track your current expenses. Once again, learn where your money is going. I like to suggest to people to do this exercise. And every time I've suggested it in a financial literacy course, people come back the next course and like, wow, I didn't realize. So I say for 1 week, write down everything you spend money on. If it's a pack of gum, write it down. At the end of that week, what you're going to do is you're going to take that list of everything you spent money on, and then you're going to take out a sheet of paper, make a line down the middle. Left side, you're going to write the word needs. Right side, you're going to write wants. And everything on that list is going to go into one of the 2 columns, either needs or wants. And what people find in doing that is like, wow, I didn't know I was spending that much on takeout. I didn't know that I was spending, that much on some particular item. And then you start to look and analyze, okay, the needs, usually can't do much with, cutting back, but sometimes you can switch a provider or something like that. And, wants, look for where you can cut back. The other thing, last thing I'll say about needs and wants, it's going to be different for everybody. So we all need to wear clothes, right? Law says we can't walk around without any clothes. However, do those clothes need to be designer? Well, for most of us, probably not. But what if I worked at one of the big fashion houses? Yeah, then for me, that's a business need. So my point is, it's going to be different for everyone. Your individual needs and wants are going to be, my individual needs and wants are I'm sure, different from yours, Ken. The other thing about when you're tracking and making a budget, don't forget about those predictable expenses like holidays and birthday gifts and, taxes is the big one as well. And one last thing I'll say about budgeting that's a helpful rule of thumb is what's called the 50-30-20 rule. So what that is 50% of your budget should go to cover your needs. 30% should go to cover those, wants, those non-essentials. And then the remaining 20%, That's what you're going to earmark for savings and investing, like your emergency fund or retirement or debt repayments. You know, uh, when setting a goal, you want to make sure, that, well, first of all, your budget's your foundation. Once you get your foundation together, then establish your near-term and short-term goals. And in doing so, use one helpful technique that I've used is called the SMART goal setting plan. So what that means is, yeah, it's not just, mentally smart. It is an acronym for specific, measurable, action-oriented, results-oriented, and time-bound. Your goal should be as specific as possible. So let me give you an example. Who's more likely to achieve their goal? Someone who says, I want to make more money, or the person who says, I want to make $1,000 more, have $1,000 more in my bank account, and within 1 year. Of course, usually it's the latter. Why? Because they have defined their target. If you don't make your goal specific and measurable, it's like playing darts without a dartboard. The darts are the money that you're just throwing in the air and just hoping it lands somewhere. Define your target, define your dartboard. That's making it specific, making it measurable. So let's take that $1,000. Okay, I want $1,000 in a year. Make it measurable. How much will I have to put away each week? $20. Action oriented. What are the actions we're going to take in order to get that extra $20 every week? Well, maybe I'm going to cut back on something, or maybe I'm going to, add an additional side hustle. Realistic. You can determine, once you do the first three, make it specific, measurable, and action oriented. Is it realistic? So is it realistic for me to put $20 away? Yeah, probably. I'm sure I can find some way to cut back and have $20 go to my bank account every week. And then lastly, time bound. Every goal should have an expiration date. Once again, that's part of the target. Because guess what? Once you reach that expiration date, you've achieved that goal, you're going to move on to the next goal and move on to the next goal. And that's how we progress in life. So those are the things you should do. Start assessing where you are today, create your budget, and then define your goals.
That's phenomenal advice, Rodney. And like you said, this is the type of advice that we apply in different areas of our life. We probably, some of us who may have played sports have applied this in the process of getting yourself physically right for competition. We apply it in school, we apply it in other areas, but for individuals and as a community, applying it more rigorously in our financial lives is critical. So again, those, literally and figuratively, the SMART approach to doing that work is to take those very specific, measurable action items, and it's very helpful to think about that with that frame, Rodney. So, a lot of people may be working a 9 to 5 or more hours in that, kind of employees thinking about taking the leap to business ownership, entrepreneurship. All of these very helpful, practical tips for individuals to maintain financial well-being apply and can translate to somebody who's looking to start a business. So my question to you is, when it comes to getting financially prepared to start a business, do you have any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. My main advice is use your resources. First, build a network of key advisors, whether it's through LinkedIn, whether it's through organizations, chambers of commerce, build a network of key advisors, people who are already out there doing it and can let you know some of their pitfalls. Also, as I said earlier, build that team of the financial advisor or an attorney and once again, just letting them know some of your vision, even if you're not able to engage them financially right now and pay for that service, but within your network, have those conversations. And, one place that you absolutely should go is the New York City Department of Small Business Services, because as Ken, I can attest to, and Ken, I'm going to throw it right back at you. and ask you about, to tell people some of the wonderful work that you're doing. But the New York City Department of Small Business Services, it really is a wealth of information and resources. And if you live in the city, definitely take advantage. Now, I know some of our folks on today's program might not live in the city, but many municipalities have business services for aspiring entrepreneurs. Reach out, go to their website, go to your local government website, see, the Office of Small Business Services within your community, find out what they're offering. So, Ken, I'm actually, this leads in a great segue because, I know that you head up Black Entrepreneurs New York City, which is an initiative and it's first of kind initiative out of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. It's never been done in a major government, and it's geared towards supporting Black entrepreneurs. So can you share some of the context on how this came to be? Because I'm curious how this all came about.
Absolutely, Rodney. It's so like you said, it is the first initiative of its kind in a major American city to address what you spoke to, which is, fundamentally the racial wealth gap and how much of a problem that is. And it's explicitly focused on providing information and resources to the Black community, and specifically focused on business ownership, entrepreneurship as a means of empowering the Black community to achieve economic stability and equity. So the initiative, to your question, how did it come about? It was launched in September 2019. I joined this past November 2020, but it was really launched in September 2019 with a convening at the Apollo Theater. There was a group of individuals, business owners, and entrepreneurs who got together to talk about the needs. There were a whole host of panel discussions, focus groups that took place afterwards. And one of the things that came out of this was we were able to assemble a BNYC cabinet, which is a group of leaders from the business world, from academia and city government, who continue to provide strategic counsel and continue to lend their networks to support the programs that we are rolling out. So this really cultivated some real thinking around some of the long-term systemic challenges that have faced Black business owners in being able to start their business, in being able to scale their business so that they can have a greater impact in their own personal lives, the lives of their families, and also in the lives and the well-being of their communities. And so what we did was we published an initial report back in August of 2020 called Advancing Black Entrepreneurship in New York City. And Rodney, this report, was really eye-opening on a number of levels, but there were some things that were not completely surprises, right? As we're thinking about how to address some of the structural challenges, what those structural challenges are, and roll out programs from that. Unsurprisingly, what would you think was the issue that was named as the most significant need facing Black entrepreneurs?
Access to capital.
You got it. It was access to capital, echoing the reports that you and the numbers that you just said. So 41% of our participants indicated that this was the top issue, seed capital, access to low cost lines of credit, short-term microloans, things of that sort. Second to that was the issue of mentorship. Unfortunately, due to the fact that there is a lack of access to capital, due to the fact that an unbelievable proportion of our business owners start our businesses with our own finances, our own savings, as opposed to capital from a bank or in the tech sector, VC, we have a much smaller margin of error when it comes to starting businesses. So we really found that this was the second most significant issue because there's a need to have experienced professionals, experienced mentors who have engaged in business ownership, in starting businesses and scaling them, who can advise on some of those issues and challenges that you face early on in a business. Not everybody hits it out of the park on their first run, but unfortunately in our community, you have to hit it out of the park on your first run. There is really no safety net in many cases. So we have rolled programming out that is focused on coaching, mentorship, particularly from business owners in the same industry, and then providing opportunities for peer learning, peer-to-peer learning, which we have rolled out through a number of programs we are doing, including our BNYC Mentors program, highly successful program that we have rolled out. The third issue that was mentioned was marketing. And so many people speak about the difficulty in finding customers. And, about 15% of our participants said that this kind of support is needed. And particularly, Rodney, in this new environment, as we're looking at the need to do business, to be comfortable doing business online, e-commerce, we have rolled out programs that are specifically focused on marketing, establishing your presence, your brand, and developing a customer base online through a great partnership with MasterCard. So kind of around all of these things, Rodney, you'd mentioned something in your, run through of some of these most important statistics about the fact that Black business owners in the Black community has low numbers of people saying that they are inheriting financial wealth. The issue of financial inheritance, right, is an issue. We think about inheritance and we think about wealth generation, not only in terms of dollars and cents and finances, but also relationships. Right? In addition to financial capital, relational capital is of utmost importance in starting a business as an entrepreneur. And so networking is an issue which we have incorporated and infused into everything that we do. Every program, every initiative has a very intentional effort and structure to cultivate networking opportunities, peer-to-peer networking opportunities, which I refer to as the horizontal networking, and also vertical networking. Networking up to people with more experience, potentially with a range of greater, more powerful relationships that can help an entrepreneur along their journey. So that need is one which we try to infuse in all of the programs we do. And as I said, having joined as the executive director in 2020, we've been steadily and aggressively building out programs and partnerships to support Black entrepreneurs through the pandemic and beyond, now into the recovery.
Yeah, I love everything you just said and all the wonderful work that you're doing, and it's so needing. I love the horizontal and vertical networking that you provide opportunities, because that's so true. Because a lot of people, when they think about networking and peer-to-peer, they think only vertically and not horizontally of other business owners who are going through similar challenges and struggles, and how you can share best practices among one another. So you have some great programs, but one of the things, and I shared a lot of statistics in talking earlier, but there's unfortunately a perception out there that minority-owned businesses are somehow inferior or less capable than white-owned businesses. And so my question to you, Ken, is any suggestions on how we can change that public perception?
Absolutely. And it's such an important and critical challenge that we face, that not everybody who's trying to start a business faces, unfortunately. This is just one more hurdle that we as Black business owners, entrepreneurs, have to get over in order to be successful. And, I often, Rodney, I think back to, and I rely upon in everything that I do, my culture, my heritage, our culture, our heritage, the African community, the African-American community, the Black diaspora. And one of the things that is so important wherever you go is the value of the right narrative, of a story, right? This is how we communicate our values. This is how we tell people who we are. This is how we pass on our history to our children, to our children's children, and how we maintain a sense of our innate power. And I just think that we have to, first of all, appreciate that the story is actually the antithesis of what is being told and what is that perception, right? When you think about the organizations or the individuals, the communities that have had to endure as much, that have had to make a way out of no way, that have had uh, to be as resourceful as possible, as resilient to setbacks as possible, have had to create networks and some of them, to actually secure our very freedom, right? To be able to do these types of things, and in the face of some of the legal and economic barriers that have been established and that we are fortunately working as a society to break down today, uh, that sounds like the very essence of a successful entrepreneur to me. That sounds like
So
exactly
true.
what you need to have in terms of your grit, in terms of your mindset, in terms of your approach to your goals, to be successful and ultimately to do that. I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the story. First of all, telling the real story, telling the true story. Uh, you know, Providing an understanding of the fact that there are some challenges that have been established, that have been baked into the law, and many structures of our society that we have to face and we have to get around in order to be successful. And so where we have not found the greatest success, it's not necessarily a result of the people who have our skin tone not being capable or ready or prepared or in a place to be able to take this on. So that's the first thing I would say, Rodney. It's really about narrative. And so on the other side, what can I say about BNYC? We believe and we appreciate the importance of being able to establish relationships and to establish connectivity. I often say, along the lines of the old African adage, if you want to run fast, you run alone. If you want to run far, you run together. And so what this means is first of all, ensuring that we're doing so within the Black community, but also looking outward and making sure that we are connecting with the like-minded people, with the many institutions and organizations that are looking for all of us to succeed, because of the knowledge that when we lift all boats, we all succeed as a society. And there are countless individuals, organizations, corporations that are looking to do that work in the Black community. So we have to connect there. And so the essence of what BNYC does is is fostering uh, these public-private partnerships that will bring resources from those individuals, those organizations, those institutional foundations that are looking to have an impact on the not just the racial justice, but the economic justice component of economic opportunity in this city, and to really make sure that we make the most of connecting those resources with the needs that we have identified through our tremendous relationships and networks of delivering services in the city of New York. So I've said a lot of things, but I think narrative is important. I think that understanding the importance of relationships and partnerships is important. And so to that end, one of the examples of what I think kind of encapsulates both of those is, back in it was March, Women's History Month. We launched an initiative called In Solidarity in partnership with one of our good corporate partners, MasterCard. And the whole goal of this campaign was to provide visibility to businesses that are owned and operated by Black women. This was Women's History Month, following Black History Month. And so, we were highlighting content through this campaign of manufacturers, creators, artists, service providers, featuring those businesses on MasterCard's priceless platform, and enabling consumers to really explore those businesses and find a way to connect with and support these very well established and very successful and very strong businesses that are owned and operated by Black women. So by doing things like this, Rodney, and highlighting these types of opportunities, we think it's having an effect of shaping the narrative for the types of people you would look at and see as tremendous entrepreneurs and potential investments, right? If you're in a space that relies upon lending, maybe a commercial bank will take a look at these types of people who are able to hold a 9 to 5 down and also hold down a very successful side gig as the ideal bet for placing, providing a loan. Maybe if you were in a tech or a tech adjacent industry, the investors, instead of looking for the prototype of a cisgendered, straight white man who went to Harvard, Yale, or Stanford as a good bet, you would look at a Black woman who, went to Spelman or Clark Atlanta University as a solid bet. So we're trying to change the narrative by presenting these types of visual opportunities and highlighting very strong and very successful, high potential Black entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and it's such important work because you're absolutely right about the relationship building and we're natural relationship builders within our community because look at what, like you said, what we've had to endure and like to quote Maya Angelou, and still I rise, and we've shown that time and time again that regardless of the hardships, we continue to rise. And but it takes those opportunities. It does take those connections, and it's great that your organization, your group within the Department of Small Business Services, be New York City, is doing that. And so that makes me think, though, we're in July, mid-July. August is a couple weeks away, and as many on the call may know, August is National Black Business Month. So I'm sure you guys over at BE New York City are doing a lot of stuff. Can you share what are the types of programming that the participants on this call can look forward to in the month of August from BE New York City?
Absolutely, Rodney. And I think it's really important for everyone to know, first and foremost, that we want you to join our community because by joining the community, you will have access to the information that is out there, to the resources that we are highlighting for Black business owners. You'll have not just access to specific information for Black business owners, but to information that is, for the most part, free of charge. This is a city government entity. And so the Department of Small Business Services is really situated to support the city's lifeblood, its small businesses. And so all of the information, the programs, the seminars, these take place on a very, very frequent basis through the city of New York. And you have access to all of these. So first and foremost, we encourage you to join our community by going to our landing page, which is www.nyc.gov/BENYC. And there, sign up to our listserv so that you can get all of this information that we are making an explicit point to get in front of our community. So I think that we're going to continue to highlight Black business and opportunities for Black business and entrepreneurs and information and resources for you. But just want to touch on some of the programs we're already doing that we're going to be amplifying in the month of August. We have, as I mentioned, through great partnerships, a number of programs we've rolled out, one of which is our MasterCard Digital Doors webinar series. And in the month of August, we are going to be having another one of our monthly webinars, which, they're aimed at providing e-commerce best practices for Black business owners. As I mentioned, the transition that has resulted from the COVID epidemic has required all of us, particularly the traditional brick and mortar businesses, to think differently about how do you cultivate your community, your customer base, how do you establish your presence, and importantly, how do you protect yourself from some of the challenges through cybersecurity that may plague businesses that are doing transactions online. So we're hoping that we will be able to get as many Black entrepreneurs as possible to our August Digital Doors webinar, and information for that is going to be on our landing page, nyc.gov/BNYC. We are also going to be continuing with our BNYC Mentors program. As I mentioned, it's a really important program that has enabled us to serve a whole host of entrepreneurs with mentor roundtables, group events. We're going to have some specific activations in the month of August, which is National Black Business Month. So we want you to, again, go to our website and check that out. We understand as well that you can only say so much, and you have to give some specific action items, as you said, Rodney, so well in your remarks. And I think we are trying to get New Yorkers, all New Yorkers, to understand the importance of Black-owned businesses to our economic well-being, our overall health as a city, and our vitality as a city. And so our top line, Rodney, is we want to increase the number of Black-owned businesses within the 5 boroughs of New York City. Right now, we constitute 22% of the population, but only 3.5% of all businesses in New York City. So, during the month of August, we are going to relaunch and amplify our Shop Your City BNYC campaign, which will spotlight Black businesses that have continued to serve our communities throughout the pandemic and that will continue to do that into our recovery. We're going to be having social media campaigns and opportunities to continue to drive support to Black businesses. Upcoming, we have a tremendous partnership as well with EY, the world-class consulting firm, where we are going to be providing 2,000 hours of pro bono consulting services and a curated resource hub and online webinars for people who are looking to start businesses here in the 5 boroughs of New York City. So that is something which we are really proud. It was announced back in August, but we are going to be rolling this out, getting it out to the world. And we hope to have some more words on that in August. And really exciting, I just want to mention this, while we have talked about what we need to do to think about getting out of the effects of the pandemic, we're really looking forward to the future and trying to identify on-ramps for Black entrepreneurs to participate as business owners in some of the high-growth, high-priority industries in our city. So we hope to have some sort of an activation that will allow us to shed some light on our efforts in partnership with the Brooklyn Navy Yard to build the BNYC Equity Accelerator on the grounds of the Brooklyn Navy Yard to cultivate Black-owned businesses for the economy of tomorrow. So we've identified 5 high-growth industries. We're reviewing proposals for operators for this accelerator, and we really want it to be a phenomenal resource for Black entrepreneurs in these high-growth sectors in New York City. So that's a lot, but there's a lot coming in the month of August, and we ask for you to make sure that you are in tune with all of that by going to our website, www.nyc.gov/BENYC, signing up for our listserv, and getting all of the good news that we want to put in your hands.
Excellent. I'm glad you shared that, because I was just about to ask, how would someone connect to all these wonderful services? So, I know it's up on the screen. So go there. It's incredible, the amount of work, and it sounds, and also what I like about the work you're doing, Ken, is the thought and research that went into it. That really built to identify what were the needs, and then come to the solutions, and making sure that the solutions take into account all the different needs, from the access to capital, to marketing, to online security, all of that. So that's fantastic. I know, we're at 10 minutes to the hour, only 10 minutes left, and I'm sure we have some questions.
That's right. Can I ask you one quick question, Rodney? This is something I always ask the panelists who participate in our events. How can these good people who have attended our conversation get in touch with you and the good work that you are doing at Morgan Stanley?
Absolutely. So you can get in touch with me. Best, honestly, is LinkedIn. So it's Rodney Bolden is my, I believe, I'm pretty sure that I'm Rodney Bolden, Morgan Stanley. That is really the best way to get in touch with me, is connect on LinkedIn, reach out. I answer every message on LinkedIn. Okay. So, if you want to connect, have a conversation, the best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn.
That's great. I've already done that. So I've benefited greatly.
Absolutely. We're already connected. And I want to throw it back at you. What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you, Ken?
Well, thank you, Rodney. The best way for folks to get in touch with me, LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me. I'm very active on LinkedIn and post a lot about what we're doing at BNYC. So just look for my name. It's Kenneth, and last name is Ebie. So that is a great way. And I also encourage you, if you are inclined, to shoot me an email at the city's email. My email is kebie@sbs.nyc.gov. So I'm very responsive. Love to hear from Black entrepreneurs and people considering entrepreneurship, and putting you in touch with the great resources we've got at the city.
Excellent.
So Rodney, you asked a great question, because we've got about 8 minutes left, and we have so many people who have stayed on to listen to the pearls that you've dropped, the information I've provided, but we want to hear from them. So
yes.
We want to hear any questions that you have for either Rodney or for myself about the great work he's doing at Morgan Stanley, or about BNYC. So this one looks like it's coming in for you, Rodney. Do you want to take a stab at this? The question is, what is the most common financial mistake that small businesses make?
Oh, yeah. The most common financial mistake that I find is that leveraging that personal credit card to start the business, and then because it's fully leveraged and revenues aren't what it needs to be, they're missing payments in the beginning, and that lowers their credit score. And as such, when they get up and running and they're in better shape, they're having difficulty getting approved for a loan because they've had some missed payments on that initial. So that is the biggest thing. If you can really avoid using your credit card. I mean, I know we all heard the Robert Townsend story from years ago, if you're old enough, where he financed his movie Hollywood Shuffle by, using credit cards. Great story, but not the best thing to do. I've seen too many people get in trouble that way.
That's great. So that's a really important tip. What are some of the benefits of starting a business with a loan versus one's own money? What are the benefits of using someone else's money?
Yeah, once again, it's the benefits are by not using your own money. That's cash and that you have on hand. That's for reserve that you can use in those times where you don't have access to capital, potentially. Of course, you want to make sure it's a loan that offers favorable treatment to you, meaning that you don't want a loan that's going to have exorbitant interest rates. So ideally, you want to look for a business loan, possibly even a personal loan. But once again, stay away with those credit cards. But yeah, starting a business with a business loan can work, but make yourself aware, become aware of what loan rates are, and shop around, for the best deal as well. And that's really some of the benefits, because if you're using your own money, potentially you may, you're exhausting a resource that's there. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Ken, from your experience as well as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think my case is the case that a lot of Black entrepreneurs have faced. And I started my business really with my personal savings. I'm not going to lie, and I think I found that the process of applying for loans, I thought it was somewhat onerous. And as my business is a social impact and public affairs firm. I just thought, hey, I can do this from the corner of my living room and try to minimize expenses and minimize paperwork and just get right to work. I don't think that is the best advice. I think that if you are trying to establish a business that you want to scale, you really should try to maximize your startup capital and invest in the resources that you are going to need to scale your business. If it's bringing on employees or renting space or getting the proper equipment. So I think I've kind of fell into this trap of thinking it's important to just get right to it, and also this process of application is too onerous. I can say as well, speaking to the great leadership at the Department of Small Business Services, our commissioner, John L. Doris, was also an entrepreneur, and he spoke about his experience in applying for loans and not getting them, and this being more often the case that many of us Black entrepreneurs face. He had all of the documentation, everything he needed, and it just came down to a loan officer looking him up and down and just making that subjective call. And so I think wherever possible, I would actually frame this question back as, what are the benefits of starting a business with your own money as opposed to a loan, which gives you a little bit more breathing room to build out a successful business.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about that. And another thing that I know from back in the day when I was, like I said, a branch manager, is that oftentimes, as part of the lending process, they may, for your whatever project you're doing for your business or whatever, they usually ask you to contribute, to have your own capital in addition to, lending you money. So that's something to be aware of. So it's there are no wrong answers with this, and that's what I want to emphasize. You have to, every situation is going to be individual. You have to look at what's best for your particular situation. What are your resources available to you, and how comfortable you are, even taking on debt, because for many people, debt is something that they're not comfortable taking on, and know that that's perfectly fine.
That's right on. I think we have time for one more question, Rodney.
Yes.
Okay, so this is one that I think we can both weigh in on here. What do you think is the most significant way that allies can support Black business owners? And I'm assuming that when we say allies, we speak about people outside of the Black community, and possibly even organizations that are not necessarily small businesses. So what are some of the most significant ways that allies can support Black business owners?
I'll just mention two. Number one, use their services. Use their services. That's first and foremost. And number two, making those connections that Ken talked about. If you have connections that can help that particular, person, that Black business owner, to get to that next level, using your leverage, using your ability as an ally to advocate for that person, whether it's, in that bank loan, whether it's in, working with a vendor, you use your advantage as an ally to advocate.
I think that's great. And I can't put much more on it other than getting back to that pearl of wisdom you dropped, Rodney, which, you spoke about financial inheritance. And I think I always add on to that the financial inheritance, which has been a great benefit for many people. We should think about relational capital and, sharing or passing on some of that relational capital, which is really what you just said here. So I think allies can lend some of their relationships, their contacts, to help together get past some of these barriers that we have faced as Black business owners.
Absolutely.
Well, Rodney, listen, it's been great talking with you, and I cannot wait to continue working with you, building with you, hopefully collaborating in the near future to support our Black entrepreneurs and to help lift this economy to where it needs to be and where it should be.
Absolutely. It's been a wonderful conversation, Ken. Great talking with you. Love the work that you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great work over there at Black Entrepreneurs New York City. And I thank you for joining this discussion.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you guys, Rodney and Ken. That was such an insightful chat. I hope everyone here was able to take something away from it. I know that I'm taking away the SMART goals as well as all the different resources that BNYC really just gives to Black entrepreneurs and, helping to elevate their businesses. And make sure you guys visit www.nyc.gov/BENYC for all of their free services. And I'll be sending out an email with their contact information as well as that website, just in case you may have missed it. So again, I would like to thank Rodney and Ken for their time, as well as everyone for joining. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at BLKMKTG Experience, so we can see you back for another episode of the Black Marketing Experience coming soon. Thank you, guys.